Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as now it's time to bring you a brand new unboxing video. So today we're going to be taking a look at the latest release from third-party company Fans Hobby, and this is Athena, which is their interpretation of a masterpiece-styled Minerva, one of the junior headmasters originally from the Japanese Masterforce line. Really excited about this one, especially as it's a character that we haven't seen done in masterpiece style before, so I can't wait to see what it's all about. I should mention before we begin that this toy is available for pre-order at TFSource now and will be up for release soon. I'll put the link to tfsource.com in the video description, and I'll be aiming to get the full review with loads of finished photos published on their blog ASAP. But for now we're going to be cracking that box open and giving you my first impressions on the toy in question. It's also worth noting that this is actually a review sample, so it may have a couple of small differences to the final product, but I believe the process is pretty far along now, so I doubt it'll change much, if at all. So as I say, this character is originally from Masterforce and follows in the footsteps of some of Fans Hobby's previous releases, like the very impressive Double Evil, which was their take on Overlord. We've also had stuff like Jinrai and Godbomber represented, along with characters such as the Monster Bots from the previous Takara series known as the Headmasters. However, Minerva is one that fans who are unfamiliar with Masterforce may not know much about, so it's maybe worth digging into her background a little before we take a look at the toy itself. The original Minerva toy was released by Takara in 1988 and turns into a Porsche 959, which features Red Cross ambulance logos in a bit of a strange twist. The toy is now very hard to find in mint condition and fetches exorbitant prices on the aftermarket today. It shares a mould with the toy Hasbro released as Nightbeat, with there being no actual design differences between them other than their colour schemes. The blue deco was also released in Japan but was known as Minerva Nightbeat and was only available as a mail order promotion. Minerva was of course also a prominent character in the Masterforce cartoon, where, like the other headmasters in the Japanese series, the character herself is a human who ends up in control of a lifeless robot known as a transector. It's quite different to how headmasters are portrayed in Western fiction, where it's all about organic beings and sentient robots bonding together. Anyway, Minerva and the other headmaster juniors, known as Shooter and Cab, are actually children who are recruited by the pretender Metalhawk to join the ranks of the Autobots, and they're given special rings to wear around their wrists to summon their new Masterforce power.
ミネルヴァもホークたちの仕事を？俺たちと同じってわけかい。
しかし女の子には危険すぎるし、それにご両親だって心配する。
パパたちとは相談して許しをもらっています。奇跡的に助かった命、みんなのために生かしたいんです。
それほど固い決意なら。
OKしてくれるんですね。嬉しい。これを僕たちに？
中を開けてみろ。それはマスターブレスだ。君たちのサイズに合わせて両手につけられるようできている。
素敵なブレスレット。
いいか、次にすることをよく見て。まず両腕を交差させてブレスレットを重ねるんだ。そうだ。そう、それでいい。次にそのままでマスターフォースと叫んでごらん。
マスターフォース？
そう、マスターフォースだ。
マスターフォース！なんだ？体が軽くなったような。いつの間に？私もよ、嘘みたい。
それがマスターフォースだ。もう君たちは立派なヘッドマスタージュニア。我々トランスフォーマーの仲間入りさ。
ヘッドマスタージュニア？
サイバトロンの若き戦士さ。
It's not long before they're also given their new vehicles, because apparently children have no problem knowing how to drive as long as they have Masterforce power. See for yourself.
うまい具合に好みもぴったりだ。
君たちのものだ。自由に乗っていいんだぞ。
僕たちにこれを？
夢みたい。
いいか、運転はマスターフォースとの連携で即座にできる。さあみんな試してみたまえ。
やったー。本当に大丈夫かしら。
すごいぞー。やっほー！
Really, I mean, what could go wrong? Of course, it isn't long before Minerva and the others discover that their vehicles can also transform into giant robot bodies, which they then bond with as their heads.
トランスフォーム！
シュータが
すごい大感激！キャブ！今度はお前の番だぞ！
よーしトランスフォーム！トランスフォーム！
Minerva is initially really nervous about her new power and struggles to find the confidence she needs to rush into battle, but when the Decepticons kill a dog, she decides enough is enough and takes action. I will say that if you've never seen Masterforce, then the following clip will probably give you more questions than answers, but here we go.
ミネルヴァ、マスターフォースに弱気は禁物だぞ。
許せない！トランスフォーム！
てめえたちの力のほどは分かったぜ。いずれこの借りは返してやる。
兄貴待ってくれ。
置いてかないでよ
俺たちも連れてってくれ。
ミネルヴァ！キャブ！
ダイバーさん！
こいつは俺に任せろ。スクリューアンカー。
シューター！はい！ナイスパー！シューター！
So that's cleared that up then. Anyway, assuming we're all up to speed, let's take a look at Fans Hobby Athena, shall we? The box is really nicely done and quite tiny overall, coming in smaller than typical Masterpiece Carbot packaging even. It's got a couple of pictures of the toy itself on the front, including Athena's human form on the left there, with a note that points out that this is the actual size of the toy. On the back are some of the features that this release has to offer, along with some promo pics of other Fans Hobby figures for you to consider. Right then, let's go ahead and get this box open. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is actually a reviewer sample. That's indicated, I don't know if you can see just here on the top, it's actually got a little sticker just saying as much. So it's not sealed, but I haven't had a chance to open this yet and check it out, so I'm really quite excited to do so. Fans Hobby are a very reliable outfit as far as I'm concerned, so they've got a good reputation with me. I've always enjoyed their previous releases, so this one is one that I've been keeping my eye on for some time and definitely looking forward to. So let's see what it's all about. I really like this, before we crack on actually, that this is actually apparently actual size of the toy as well. So that's, I don't know, that's kind of fun. Okay, here we go. Let's get rid of the box. So that's the actual toy just there in the clamshell. Looks like we've got the accessories just there in a little baggie as well, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Here we have the instructions and stickers as well. So yeah, one thing about this toy is that there are some stickers included, as you can see, quite a few actually. Now the actual car, obviously is Red Cross decals, which I'm sure will have been a bit of a licensing issue. Maybe that's a concern for them, I don't know. It certainly is on official toys anyway, like Masterpiece Ratchet. So, you know, clearly what they've decided to do is include a couple of stickers here, presumably to sort of sidestep that. So you will have to apply these if you want the car, to look like it does in the show, or indeed the original toy as well. And I guess you've got a little choice of which ones. It's got a couple of license plate decals here as well. And I guess these bits are presumably for her robot mode. So we'll just get that little baggie open and I'll show you what's in there. Take a closer look. Right, so there are the stickers in all their glory. I'm not going to be applying those today, but I'll get those applied before I do the full review, or at least a couple of them. There is the instructions. We'll take a look at those in just a moment. And of course, there's the character card as well, if you're into that kind of thing. There you go. And let's take a look at the toy. So, bit of sellotape there on the side, I think. No. I always like clamshells, I have to say. Big fan of them. I've kind of gone off, as nostalgic as polystyrene is on stuff like Fans Toys releases. I don't know, not great for the environment. Kind of gone off it now as an idea for that reason. And I don't know, I just find clamshells are way easier. I've been getting it back into stuff like Armada recently, as some of you may know. And my God, having rediscovered twisty ties, whew, very glad they're not a thing anymore. Okay, so we'll take a look at the accessories as well. Let's get that open. Quite a few little bits in there. Just tip them all out. Now, I don't know if this is exactly how stuff is going to be packaged in the final production version or not. I guess it'll be very similar. Okay. So we got a couple of little bits and bobs in the box there, which I'll go through. Try and not lose anything. Right, so we've got the car itself, which we'll take a proper look at in just a minute, but there you go. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. We'll come back to that. We've got, well, this is actually Minerva herself that you can see just there. So that's kind of interesting. So if anything, that's the actual character that you're after. This is actually not the first time that we've seen this toy. Really interestingly, Fans Hobby actually released this figure, just the head, along with both Shooter and Cab as well, their representations of Shooter and Cab. They released those three along with their God armor, which is their Masterforce God bomber. And you could get all three of them with that release, so that's quite interesting. They also did them in, their recolors in black and the purple one as well. So yeah, really interesting that we've actually had those three characters before we've had the main toy, the main car and robot and what have you. So that's kind of interesting. Does make me think that presumably there are representations of Shooter and Cab on the way as well. One can only hope. But yeah, really, really interesting. So I'm actually familiar with this bit already. Which is quite funny. It looks to be identical to the original toy, which I happen to have here. There we go, always come prepared. So that's it in its head mode, but we'll come back to that obviously in just a minute and we'll do a little comparison between the two. We also have a couple of guns. There we go. So I don't know if they store in car mode, but we'll see. But I'm sure they'll come in very handy in robot mode. We have the helmet, which is actually for Minerva or Athena, whichever you prefer, when she's in her head mode. So, I mean, again, you can see on the original head that I have here that that's where that comes into place there, just the helmet on top. And that's actually quite cartoon accurate as well. When you see the character transform in the Masterforce cartoon, you can actually see that part of the helmet attaching. So, I don't know, it might be one of those things that people are like, oh, that's a bit of a pain. But I don't know, I guess it is cartoon accurate if that's your thing. You can actually store those little helmets inside God armor as well, inside the cockpit. So that's quite handy. And there's an alternate face here as well. That's actually, weirdly, I say alternate face, that looks like the default face, if anything. I don't know if you can see that just there, if we can get that to focus. Maybe not. There we go, just about. anyway, that's actually the default face, and then I presume that means, yeah, we've actually got the sort of smiling face on the back of the head just there currently. So those are your two faces that you get just there. Just about got them in focus. So yeah, two options. Think I prefer the default face myself, but we'll take a look once it's all done. So all in all, a couple of different accessories in the box there, which is really nice. Decent set overall. Still really strange that we've already seen the actual Minerva headmaster herself, but you know, decent package it looks like. Right, so I've just had a quick sneaky peek at the instructions and noticed that, that here we go, this is where the stickers are all applied. So I don't know if you can see there, but there's a couple that go just on her chest in robot mode, which we'll take a look at in just a bit, but they just go underneath that chest panel. A couple for the knees, and then as expected, quite a few for the car as well. So you've got a split Red Cross logo that goes on the bonnet, a couple on the sides, and the license plates as well. And it looks like there's even a couple that go inside the car, which we'll take a look at in just a minute. But there's, you know, sort of some realistic, well, hopefully realistic detailing inside the car. And you get a couple of decals for that as well. So yeah, something to think about. So this is the actual car mode. Here you go. I have to say, I think it looks really, really nice. Really well put together. It feels really solid. It's quite lightweight. I don't think there's any die cast or what have you in this figure. Certainly doesn't feel like it because it's really lightweight to the touch. You know, particularly in comparison to some stuff like Fans toys or what have you. But to be honest, I never mind that. I'm not really a big, you know, I don't need die cast in all my toys or anything like that. And sometimes it's nice to, you know, sort of just have them be fairly simple and plastic. So, but yeah, this looks really superb. Some nice detailing on the sides just here. A little bit of translucent plastic for the rear headlights, tail lights, I should say. Some nicely applied paint, which looks pretty consistent across the different sections. Clearly, this is going to split here. You know, you can see there's a couple of joins in the car, obviously here, but actually the paint looks to be pretty well applied. Yeah, I mean, there's no inconsistencies or what have you, so that's pretty good. Space for the bumper sticker just here, and then there will be space for the front bumper sticker just there as well. Little translucent plastic headlights. The wheels are not rubber, but they're not hard plastic either. They're interesting. Are they rubber? They might be actually. I think they are actually. I think there's something going on. I can't really tell. It's interesting. It looks like maybe they do come off, but I'm not going to force it. But they're at the very least, they're kind of a softer plastic to sort of imitate rubber. They've got they've definitely got a different feel than this hard plastic here on the rest of the body. So that's something. But they look really nice, and they obviously roll. In fact, I think I did check it out and noticed that there's a little bit of clearance difficulty on the car overall because of some of this kibble on the bottom, but it definitely stands on all four. Oh, I say that. It definitely does it not? Just about stands on all four wheels. I think I might have to fiddle with it a little bit, but clearly quite tight clearance on the bottom there. But, you know, there is fairly tidy underneath to the car there. You can see sort of various robot bits and bobs that we'll get to, but quite clean. I think what is quite nice is that these wing mirrors come attached, but they look like they're just on little pegs just here, so they presumably pop off. I'm not going to try, just because I don't want to tempt fate, but they don't look like they're particularly fragile, and they can rotate in a little bit if you prefer. Again, translucent plastic on the top here for the light bar, which looks pretty good, and translucent blue plastic for the windshield and all of the windows, which is cool because I don't know if that's necessarily how I would have imagined that this figure would look in toy form, but it is consistent with Takara Tomi's own Masterpiece line at the moment. So, you know, if that's what you're going for, then this, I think, will line up pretty well. And in fact, we can see a quick comparison. So I happen to have Masterpiece Sideswipe just here. You can see that size-wise, they're basically the same. quite consistent between the two. And again, you know, it's got that blue translucent windshield as well, so that obviously ties it in quite nicely. They do feel a little bit different in terms of plastic, but actually the Fans Hobby plastic I've always found to be very good. Never had any issues. Very solid stuff, but it does have a slightly different feel to stuff like Takara Tomy, but that's not bad. This obviously is covered in paint. This is a lot of bare plastic. You know, make of that what you will, whether that's good or bad. Some people prefer that because it means that there's not going to be a lot of paint chipping. And you can see just there as well, little size comparison between the two. They're basically the same size end to end. I mean, it looks, turn it the other way as well so you can see, but she really does fit in quite nicely, I would say. And it's great actually to see different characters being represented that can still line up with your masterpiece collection as well. I'm a big fan of that. So I think they've done a really nice job in that regard. Okay, I just had a quick look at the instructions, and of course there is a vehicle mode interior as well. So we're going to take a look at that. Now I believe you can, yep, just lift that up, and there you see is a bit of the car interior just there. And you can actually put your little Minerva figure inside, so we'll give that a go in a minute. That should be fun. There's not too much in the way of real detailing. I think this bit here that I've just folded is kind of like the driver controls, I guess, in place of a steering wheel. That's kind of how it looks in the cartoon anyway. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. And there is some weapon storage, I believe, inside the car as well. So, okay, so that whole roof section just pops off. It's on this little peg just there, which pegs onto this bit. So fairly straightforward. You can see the inside of the car just there. Doesn't look super tidy, but then I guess it doesn't really need to either because it's covered by the windshield normally. And so you store the guns. Just looking at the instructions as we go. Okay, so there's some pegs on the inside, peg holes on the inside there, and it looks like it's this bit. So, hang on. Okay, I can fold that out of the way. Fairly straightforward. So, okay, the guns just plug in like that. Quite straightforward. And actually, I mentioned already about this little helmet piece for the top of the head, which is not in use when the head is obviously in, humanoid form. But it looks like, is it that way? You can just peg that inside the car. There you go. So a bit of storage for that as well. So that's a nice little touch. They didn't have to do that. I don't think there's anywhere to store the second face, but hey ho. And so it says here to press down there to make a bit of room. And we're going to fit the legs of the driver just in there. Now, Fans Hobby very kindly sent me a video of how to do this, so I have checked it out already. So I'm going to attempt to replicate it as best as I can. So I think that you're supposed to have, Minerva herself in that kind of position, roughly, give or take, and then it should be a question of, it's all going to go wrong, you know. Nope, it's actually pretty easy. Just pop her in, and then I think that bit folds down. Okay, there you go. So she just pops in, her legs kind of fit either side of that peg section that's just in there, and then this control section folds down. If you position her arms correctly, then it looks like she's kind of driving, so that's quite nice. And then we've got the weapons stored, we've got the helmet stored, we've got Minerva inside the car, so we should, he says, hang on, she maybe needs to move forward just a little. There we go. Just pop that back in. I think it clips, I guess, yeah. Just make sure it all clips in. Looks like it's sticking up a bit at the back there, but you get the idea. Bit of clearance somewhere. Anyway, there she is, just inside. Whoops, I'll get the wing mirrors positioned correctly. There she is, just inside, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. That looks really ace. Nice little feature. I mean, I think with toys like this, where, you know, headmasters, what have you, where they have little humanoid partners, you definitely want that interaction between the two, between the larger toy and the little figure itself. I think if you don't have that, then it's just kind of half the concept. So that's really nicely done by Fans Hobby, I think. And then that should just fold back down. A little bit coming untabbed there. I'll sort that out in a minute and hopefully get that flush. But yeah, that is the car mode just there with everything complete. Really nice so far. Really, really like it. Beautiful sculpt, really nice proportions on the car. You know, I'm not a huge car nut by any means, but to my eye, that looks like a decent attempt at a real world vehicle anyway. And, you know, the model it's meant to be. Stuff like the translucent plastic for the siren lights and what have you, that looks really, really good. Really like the blue windshield. And I think that's a nice touch too. So yeah, overall, big fan of this car mode, like what they've done so far. Right then, now it's time to go through transformation. Now this is the first time that I've actually given a go at this particular transformation, so let's see how it goes. Now I'm going to speed up the transformation section for this video to keep things moving. I've tried it both ways before, but I think what I'm going to do this time is publish the transformation section separately at normal speed so that you can see it in detail if you wish, but we'll speed it up here just to kind of keep it going. So here we go. Okay, so that's all transformed up and into robot mode. And I have to say, you know, as I said, I'll put the video for the transformation separately so that you can see it in detail if you want. But, you know, the too long didn't read version is that it's really not that complicated overall. I have to say, you know, I've always thought that Fans Hobby do a really good job at finding the balance between, you know, keeping the designs quite simple, you know, but still looking really, really good so that you don't lose that fun factor, you know, whereas see some third-party figures can be a little bit overcomplicated sometimes. That's definitely not the case here. I think, you know, with a bit of practice, that's not going to take you, what, maybe 5 minutes or more to transform, you know, so it's really quite simple overall. And here she is in robot mode, and yeah, looking really, really good, I have to say. Really like it. Really strong first impression so far. A couple of little quirks that are worth mentioning. I had a bit of trouble during transformation with this panel. Just on the back here, these panels are, well, they're actually the car doors, and they fold up and tab just like that into the back of her legs, so they look really nice and clean, and I like the way that these rear view mirrors, wing mirrors, sorry, fold into the sides there so that they're nice and tucked away. The thing that's weird is that this side, this door, pegs in really tightly, and actually this front panel here, on the which is, you know, part of the car bonnet, that all pegs in really nicely on her left leg. This side, less so. I mean, it's, oh, there you go. This panel just has I mean, that's not a problem. It's supposed to be loose like that, but it doesn't seem to tab as securely. So although it does go, and that, you know, that seems fine for now, I guarantee you in a minute it's going to pop out. And I feel like maybe just the peg, you know, where it goes into the hole in the back of her leg, that it's just not quite the right size. So I may need to do a bit of looking at that. Either that or there's a bit of user error on my part, because it feels like this panel pops open a bit too easily as well. But, you know, I have this side correct. The other side, you know, seems to be a bit more of an issue. You know, what else to say? So there's a really nice color scheme going on here. There you go. Look, it's just popped out and I barely touched it. And that side is still secure. So yeah, I'll just keep putting it in. You can count the number, it's gone again. You can count the number of times that it comes out. But yeah, I really like the look of this figure. Not entirely cartoon accurate, it's worth saying. I mean, if cartoon accuracy is your thing, then Fans Hobby's figures are definitely a little bit more stylized than some. And, you know, I don't know how important it is to have super accurate Masterforce figures in your collection. But there's definitely some differences versus the cartoon model. I mean, even just stuff like, I think in the cartoon model, she's got these wheels actually on her forearms. These sort of pillar sections, shoulder pads, whatever you want to call them, they're a little bit more kind of integrated, whereas here they almost sit as like separate pieces. These don't tab in anywhere onto the side, so they have a lot of free motion. They're just on these little pillars, these little armatures just there. So you can actually reposition these if you wish. One thing I have sort of already quickly noted is that you could even kind of position them at the back there like that. You'd need to line them up a little bit better, but that might be kind of more your preference if you fancy a little bit more room for the arms. One thing that I just noted was that actually just lifting the arms up, that gives you a bit more access there to the arms. To these red shoulder pads don't have to move, whereas normally with these in place, you can see that the whole section moves, and actually you get a bit of a gap just under there at the armpit. So yeah, I think on that balance, that looks better. And certainly if this was a question of just having a nice looking robot toy as opposed to something that's vaguely resembling the look of the cartoon, then I'd probably go with this. This is arguably slightly more cartoon accurate, but still not completely. So, do what you want with it, I guess. I've just for now put the default face on there, as you can see. I just did that off camera quickly just before we began. But here's you've already seen it, but there's the smiling face as well. These are actually the one head there that's in place on the figure. This one is actually the head that came with Fans Hobby God armor. So you can see that they are identical. Really, really no difference between those two. Still makes me chuckle, as I said earlier, that we actually received that head before we got the rest of the body. So yeah, kind of amusing all the same. In terms of posability, seems to be a really lithe figure, lots of joints. So, there's really good motion at the hips. You can go all the way up and to the side as well. Less maneuverability at the knee. That's about all you can achieve at the knee. There is a kind of double joint there, but that's really, doesn't give you a lot because it's obviously impeded. But, it's not a huge problem because there's still, plenty of range of motion there. But, you're not going to get like a full knee, a kneel out of this or anything like that. Really good ankle tilt just there, which is nice. So that's something. And a little bit of inward ankle tilt as well, which, personally I always kind of like for different sort of more unusual poses. So that's something. Coming up to the waist, there's a good old waist swivel just there, which, should keep everyone happy, and a bit of a sort of ab crunch. Actually, the way that this is molded is that the sort of this piece here, the abdomen section, rotates just completely freely inside the hips. So it's quite unusual. And clearly Fans Hobby wanted to give her, a good range of motion there at that section. So they've obviously done that. The head moves quite freely, side to side. And actually you can look up and down and, a bit of tilt as well. So that's quite good. Arms you've already seen about this little section here. The arms are really very spindly, and the hands as well. There's a good range at the elbows and the hands, and there's actually a bit of wrist movement there up and down as well. And the hands, the fingers themselves are all on one piece like that, and then the thumb moves separately. So, overall, looks to be a very posable figure. This piece has come out again, so I will tab it in again. And of course, now it doesn't want to go at all. Clearly there's something. So I don't know if the peg is too large or the hole is too small or which one it is, or a bit of both, I guess. We'll figure it out. Otherwise, there is a bit of a backpack going on. And again, it's kind of, I guess, accurate to the cartoon in the sense of, she did have a backpack in the cartoon. It didn't look exactly like that. I think, for example, this bit here, the windshield at the top, that's not how it was in the cartoon. But it really doesn't look bad at all. I mean, you could have that bit down if you prefer. I think it is meant to, it is meant to go up like that. That doesn't really tab into anything, so that is kind of loose, but it really is not a problem. So, and actually you can, if you prefer, You really can just take that piece off should you like it. And that, you know, obviously makes her look a lot cleaner as well. And actually from a back view, it's not the nicest, but it's really, it's okay. It's fine. It kind of depends how you feel about parts forming. I mean, I guess it could have been cool to be able to see this used as a shield or something like that as well. You cannot do that. That is not an option on this toy. So, and I don't mind that at all. I mean, it's just, it would have been a bit off book anyway. But I'm just saying it is like, you know, just to make sure that you understand that it can't be done. Right, the other thing that is cool here is obviously with the Headmaster gimmick, there's a really nice nod to the original Headmaster toys, particularly the ones from 1987, which obviously had a little flip-down panel on their chest, and you could see their tech specs on the inside, their strength, speed, and intelligence. And actually, it sort of works here. Now, interestingly, on other third-party Headmasters that we've had from the likes of Fans Toys, from KFC, actually from Mate Toys as well, it's always just been painted detail on the inside of that chest. Whereas here, Fans Hobby, this is their first attempt that we've seen, they've actually given it an attempt, you can see on there, at little moving decals, so little moving numbers. So when you move that down, the numbers, the little chart there actually moves with it. Now, clearly you're not going to get an accurate read of any, you know, actual numbers off that, but it's a nice little touch all the same. It's one of those little gimmicks that I guess they didn't have to do. It's a nice touch, it's appreciated. So yeah, a little bit of fun. So just maybe be careful with that, but we'll put that back in place. Of course, the head does come out. One thing I've noted is getting it in is fine, but woof, pulling it out is takes a good bit of a good bit of force to get the head out there. But again, actually getting the head into position is really not a problem. And again, you know, obviously because of God armor, you have a choice of heads then, so that's quite nice. Only one of these heads comes with the toy itself, but you know, again, 2 expressions. But really clipping the head in place is very easy. It's just getting it out requires a little bit of force. Then, of course, we have 2 guns. So this is the way that the guns come in the package. And then, of course, that's how they store in the car mode as well. And then they just unfold to look like that. So you just flip the top over and then the handle folds out the bottom. The handle is quite difficult because it's just buried up inside this little section. You can see here. And yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to need a tool to get that bit out, but actually it turns out it's okay. Managed to do it in the end. So let's have a go at getting that into her hand. Move that little thumb out of the way. Oops. It's just the old peg mechanism. There we go. Ah, it's fallen out. We'll try it again. There we go. It feels like it's gone in securely enough. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. One thing I will say at this stage is that this is definitely the smallest and most intricate figure that Fans Hobby have done so far, and I think that's really interesting. Is I was thinking about it earlier, and that, you know, all of their toys thus far have been, you know, real chunky things. You know, whether it's their original design, their Arch Enemy and Gunfighter 2. You know, Power Baser, which is one of the chunkiest things I've ever seen. We'll have a look at that in a minute. You know, Double Evil, their Monster Bots, they're all just like massive and big and chunky and whatever. And this is not only the smallest in terms of its size, but just the most kind of intricate and you know, really kind of tiny levels of detail. So it's quite a change of pace for them. It's quite nice. This gun looks fantastic, by the way. Really adds something to the presence of this character. And I just note from the instructions here that actually, although there are 2 guns, you can have, well, one or both of them, whatever you prefer. If I can get it. There we go. It just tabs onto the side of her legs, just there. So it's kind of like they're holstered. That looks pretty cool too. I dig it. Nice look. So yeah, there you go. That is Fans Hobby Athena in robot form. And again, I think, you know, she looks really, really cool. Let's do a couple of quick comparisons. I mentioned already, oh, sorry, it's worth me just saying that there will be stickers on this as well. As I mentioned earlier in the video, good couple of stickers to be applied on different areas of the robot form. Now, with comparisons, I mentioned earlier that in car mode, she's carbot sized, Masterpiece carbot sized. And interestingly, that follows through into the robot mode as well. So here she is with Masterpiece Wheeljack. That looks really great to my eye. I have to say, I think that works superbly well. Quite different in terms of style, and you know, Fans Hobby, again, very stylized figures, and they definitely kind of have a different look and feel to them. But actually this fits in really nicely to my eye. I think that works superbly well. And in terms of scale, you know, I don't really know what else you'd be looking for, to be honest. So nice job there, definitely. I'll definitely do some more scale comparisons in the full review when I get it published. We'll do some photos. I'll take over with some other headmasters, third-party headmasters, that kind of stuff. But that gives you an idea of how big she is anyway. And then it's probably worth, if we can get him in there, doing a comparison with another Fans Hobby figure. Here he is. Clear the deck a little bit. So this is Power Baser. And yeah, I mean, he's massive. So we just have to pan back a little bit here. Stretching the confines of my work area a little bit. Well, that gives you an idea. I mean, yeah, he really is a big old brute of a thing. And Athena looks quite small by comparison. She's not a really small toy by any stretch, but it just gives you an idea. I think that works really, really well. And obviously these two come from the same bit of the franchise, same continuity in Masterforce, so gives you an idea. Okay, we'll just put him to one side. So, that's Athena for you. So final thoughts on this robot mode are that I think she looks fabulous. Really, really like it. A couple of quirks, you know, with that panel on the back of her right leg, clearly need to do some work with. Not quite sure what's going there. It might just be because I've got a review sample that, you know, it's not quite as polished, I'm not sure. But it won't tab in for me properly. That's unfortunate. Otherwise, though, the sculpt itself is really nicely done. Again, not 100% cartoon accurate. If that's indeed important to you, for my money, it's close enough and certainly looks really, really great. So absolutely can't wait to see the other two junior headmasters when Fans Hobby do them. So that's Fans Hobby Athena. I'll put the link to TF Source's listing in the video description, so you can go ahead and pre-order one now if you want, and I'll be aiming to get the full review and photos up on their blog ASAP. Thanks again for watching, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out my other videos whilst you're at it. Quick final shout out to everyone who already supports me on Patreon. Details are coming up at the end of the video. Otherwise, that's it from me, so enjoy the rest of your day. TTFN.